Okay, welcome to the clock operator meeting for the 2022 season. Thank you for attending. I want to thank Randy Mills for helping us being able to set up the technology here. And obviously Ed Camp, who will be presenting later to go over the fundamentals that we will be covering for this upcoming school year and the football season. The first thing that we want to make sure that everybody knows is the fees for the upcoming season. The Big Central Conference will be paying $65, which also includes the down and distance. The Super Football Conference and NJIC will be paying $80, which includes the clock as well as doing the down and distance. Please note that for this, for the 2023 season, I can assure you that the Big Central Conference will go to a minimum of $80 for the clock this year. So we're excited to make sure that that happens. The contract ends after this school year. One of the things that we want to make sure that we're following is the manual this year, which requires all clock operators to be using an O2O, or that Midland radio that all of the officials are using. Please make sure that you have a Midland radio, which is nicknamed, which is used as the O2O, as well as an earpiece. Do not use the O2O without an earpiece, as we do not want to have coaches or any other people listening to that in the press box. We will be using the O2O for unsure of clock status, where we can communicate with the crew, as well as being able to reset the clock so that the officials can be able to communicate with the clock operator and vice versa that way. So talking about this, please make sure that before the game that you know how to reset the clock before any type of game. All clock operators will be evaluated by the crew chiefs each game with a 1, 2, or 3. If it's a 1, that means it's below standard, 2 is standard, and 3 is above standard, which means that you went above and beyond. Let's say, for example, there is we have a stop clock at 1:24. We have a false start. The officials were a little bit delayed in calling the false start. You start at the clock, and you on your own sent it to 1:24. That's going above and beyond as a clock operator, and that's where the 3 piece would come in. So you will be evaluated by the crew chiefs. If there's any issues that you're facing with the crew chief or anything like that, you can send me an email to let me know about that, and I will get back to you. Please make sure you're always not assuming what's going to happen on the play. Make sure you have patience with stopping the clock outside of 2 minutes. And always make sure that you're confirming with the crew chiefs each week. So they should be reaching out to you by Monday evening to confirm for the upcoming weekend. However, if they do not do that, make sure you reach out to them no later than Wednesday to confirm everything is up to date. We would like to show you what's actually going to be on the website. We have some awesome documents that we're going to be able to look at and be able to see this year. So we're actually going to show on the NJFOA North website, as well as the Central website, you'll be able to see documents there. Randy, could we just show that?
It's up now.
Wonderful. So with that, you're going to be able to see now the documents for the clock operators are going to have access to this year, which we're really excited about. So be able to kind of look through those, and you'll be able to see some play clock operator, game clock operator things. Some of the cheat sheets that Ed Camp has provided that he will be going through in today's session are all posted on the website, both for the North as well as the Central website. So please make sure you take advantage of these documents to help you as you progress through the season. So I wish everybody a best of luck this season, and I hope that you guys have a great year. If there's any issues, send me an email and we'll go from there. And thank you again to Ed and Randy for helping run this clock operators meeting for the 2022 season. Best of luck. Thank you.
Okay,
Ed?
Yeah, hi, I'm ready to go. I just got a couple of
administrative things to talk about. Some of them will be repetitive. Mark mentioned a few of them. But let's get started. Here we go. Best practices. Try to arrive at the game site about 45 minutes before kickoff. Check in with the AD. That's always important to get them calmed down. In the weeks, the days prior, along with the crew chief, you should confirm with the crew chief and with the AD that you'll be there. That kind of sets them at ease and lets them do the other 500 things that they have to do on game day night. The crew chief should get you a parking spot as well. Okay. You want to check and sync your O to O's with the crew. Your Midland radios should be synced with the crew. And again, you want to check on how they can communicate with you when they need to fix the mistakes that get made on the field or up in the booth. And those two common problems where we need to fix the clock, Mark mentioned one, false start. The crew's a little late in getting the flag down, and we got to put precious seconds back on the clock. We really want to think about that under 2 minutes of both halves, okay? Everybody's looking at the clock. If it's 5:25 to go in the first quarter and you leak a second or two off, we don't need to hold up the game for that. But late in the game, when time is of the essence and it's a critical spot, let's make sure we have the ability. We've had communication with the crew on how to fix the clock and what to do. Another scenario would be on onside kicks or even any kickoff. I think late in the game, you should write down the time of the kickoff and appropriately know how much time should go off should we have an onside kick. Okay. One of the things we did in the NFL was on onside kicks, we didn't even run the clock at all. We let the crew just tell us, take 4 seconds off the clock. That's up to you. If you see a clear signal on an onside kick way up front there, you can run the time down and just be, accurate in starting and stopping the clock on those. But those are your basic 2 adjustments of the clock. Okay. Uniform, be the pro. You're one of 10 people on the crew. There's 6 officials. You're the 7th, and then the 3 chain people. So we want to look like a professional. Okay. You don't want to have any logos or uniforms. You want to just blend in with the crowd. Sometimes, they know who you are. They know you're part of the officiating staff. So don't make any comments or replies on officiating. Hey, I'm just here to run the clock. I don't know anything about holding or anything like that. Okay. Work the clock first. Down and distance is secondary, okay? Especially under 2 minutes, it's okay if you don't have 2nd and 14 and it's really 2nd and 13, but more importantly, everybody's looking at that clock, okay? I suggest strongly and recommend strongly that we record timeouts on an index card. So remember, you're the 7th person on the crew. It doesn't hurt to have a 7th set of eyes on the timeouts. Okay, so write them down, write down the quarter and the time, and share that with the crew if you can. Those are just things that make you part of the crew. Hey, Randy, let's go to guidelines now.
Okay, 1 second. There you go.
Okay, let me get mine up there. That's not it.
You should be able to look at the screen.
I don't see it.
I don't see it.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
We will try to fix that. All right, let me stop sharing. And then let me reshare. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so here's some guidelines. This is like the general cheat sheet that I gave to the electric clock operator class a couple of years ago. Starting the clock. On a kickoff, we'll start the clock when it's legally touched, and the nearest official or officials will wind the clock. Okay, so you can look for them, or if you see the touching yourself and are sure of it and you confirm it, you can roll it. On the snap, okay, so if we're going on the snap, when the ball is snapped by the offense, fire it up right away, and that's where we get a little bit trigger happy sometimes. We may have to adjust it after a false start. I said the guidelines from us are under 2 minutes. Really be cognizant of that and put the seconds back on the clock. Outside of that, early in the game, you could just let it go, and we'll just walk off the false start of the encroachment and go from there. Okay, and always look for the referees ready for play. There may or may not be a whistle. We have the silent wind now with the 40-second play clock, but look for the white hat, the referee, to roll it after a penalty or after any kind of stoppage. Speaking of stoppages, we have 2 types of stoppages. Major clock stoppers, this is when the game clock will next start on the snap, okay? So what is a major clock stop? Anytime you have an incomplete pass. when the runner goes out of bounds, anytime you have a score, touchdown, field goal, safety, touchbacks, anytime a team calls a timeout, that's in all caps for a reason. You can have an official timeout. It's a minor timeout. Official may just want to stop the clock to get an injured player off the field. That's not a timeout. That's not the type of timeout. We're talking about an official timeout that's granted to a team. At the end of the quarter, okay, that's a major clock stopper. Anytime there's a change of possession, all right, has to be the change of possession itself. We're going to go over a test question that kind of circumvents that a little bit. Anytime there's a legal kick play, and then after any delay of game foul. Okay, so after all those instances right there, we're going to start the clock on the snap. Okay, now what are minor clock stoppers? The game will restart on the referee's ready for play signal following any of these here. First down. So, the crew's going to stop on a apparent first down, and that's a minor clock stopper. If the runner was still in bounds, we would just wind the clock up again as soon as we get the chain set or we're ready to roll. All right. If there's a penalty, if we throw a flag for holding, we're going to kill the clock there. If that's the only thing that stopped the clock, we're going on the ready. Okay. If you have an injury or an official's timeout, that's what I was talking about before. It has to be an injury timeout or equipment timeout or an official's timeout for some reason. If that was the only reason that the clock gets started, we're going on the ready. If a player's helmet comes off during the play, the official's on the field, you're going to stop the clock, send him out for one play, and then fire the clock back up again. All right. Anytime there's a measurement, that would also be an official's timeout too. If we have a measurement, we're going to stop the clock, bring out the chains, make our decision, and we'll go on the ready. All right. Now, here's the thing that you have to remember. You take those two groups, minor clock stoppage and major clock stoppage. But the comment in red there. Any combination of a minor clock stoppage plus a major clock stoppage would require the clock to start on the snap. So let's give you a scenario, okay? Team A throws a touchdown pass, but they're called for holding. So you have two things that stop the clock there. One, the touchdown, and two, the holding. Well, that's a combination. You have the touchdown, apparent touchdown, you have an apparent score on the play, and you have a hold. So therefore, we would bring that back. Obviously, the defense is going to take that penalty. We'd bring it back, march off the foul. And what caused the clock to stop? We have a major clock stopper in the mix, the touchdown, the scoring play. So we would go on the snap there, okay? Starting clocks on kickoffs. Okay, when the kick is touched by the receiving team, the nearest official or officials will wind the clock. Do not start the clock on a kickoff that goes out of bounds untouched by the receivers. Do not start the clock on a kickoff that goes into the end zone untouched by the receivers. Okay, now let's talk about the modified New Jersey timing rule where we have a 33-point deficit in the second half, also known as the mercy rule. Here we go. For all levels of play during the regular season, postseason, if the score differential reaches 33 points or more in the second half, the game clock will only stop for penalties, injuries, timeouts, team or official, or scores. Now, the abbreviation is PITS. So it's penalty, injury, timeout, team or official timeout, and score. Okay, if the score differential drops below 25, which means 24 or less, then the regular timing would go back into effect. We'd have probably a little bit more competitive ball game going on. Okay, so a couple of notes. Each quarter is 12 minutes. Halftime is at the direction of the home team management. That's based on sometimes getting the teams back to the school. All those considerations are dictated by home team management. When the clock is stopped and next started with a legal snap, no official should wind the clock. Clock operators know what they're doing. You guys know what you're doing, okay? So there's no need for we used to do it in the old days. If it was started, it was going to go on the snap. As soon as the ball was snapped, you had officials winding the clock. We looked bad doing that. So the ECO will be in charge of starting the clock when it's supposed to be started on the snap. During an extra point try, the clock does not run. This is known as an untimed down. All right, and that includes during the mercy rule stage too. After the score, we're just going to let them go try for point, and we'll have the kickoff, and we'll go from there. Okay, don't run it during the try. During overtime, the clock doesn't run. However, clock operators should still keep the down and distance and the score. Okay, so that's the guidelines. Now let's take a look at a couple of test questions. Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
All right, you're good.
Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of test questions. This was actually off the clock operator's test when we had the clock operator only class 2 years ago. So question one, I gave you this one before actually. The offense throws a touchdown pass. The offensive tackle is called for holding, which is going to negate the touchdown. But the clock was stopped for a touchdown, which is a scoring play major. So we would start the clock there on the snap. Okay, here's the one I had to go around the block a few times to get the answer for. The offense throws a pass which is intercepted. All right, that's a change of possession or an apparent change of possession. The defender who intercepted is tackled in bounds. All right, so we would stop the clock for any interception. But the defense is flagged for defensive pass interference. So the clock was stopped for an interception and an apparent change of possession. It's not going to be a change of possession. So in this case here, we have the clock stopped for an interception, but it's not a change of possession because at the end, we're going to give the ball back to the offense. So this is going to be ready. Okay, it's a good one to look over a few times. All right, question 3, the offense requests and is granted a team timeout, major clock stopper. All right, on the next play prior to the snap, the offense is flagged for a false start. We're still going to go on the snap there because we haven't had a legal snap after the official timeout. Okay, let's look at number 4. Offense runs out of bounds for a first down. Okay, the clock is stopped for a runner running out of bounds, which is a major clock stopper. Okay, when would the clock start next? We go on the snap. All right, the kickers, number 5, kickers kick off. Receiver catches the ball at the 10-yard line. We would start the clock on the nearest official winding, and he runs to the 25-yard line where he's tackled inbounds. So we're going to stop the clock. It's change of possession and a kick play. We're going on the snap. Okay, so those are just some test questions. I'll put them up on the website at our earliest convenience, and you can look over them, and we'll try to get the answers out to you. But those are good things for you to go over during the week, before you go to your game on Friday or Saturday. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Randy, let's go. Okay, so with the 2022 new rules, the only one that really is pertinent to the clock operators is the one we see on the screen here. It's game clock option rule 347. And what that is when a foul is committed, with less than 2 minutes remaining in either half, the offended team has the option to start the game clock on the snap. So that rule has been tweaked a little bit because last year the foul had to be accepted. Now all we have to do is have a foul committed within the last 2 minutes, which means 159 or below, okay? And if we stop the clock to enforce the foul, when we come back, the offended team has the right to say we want to go on the snap. So let me just give you one example, and we'll move on to the next category. If the clock is running and B encroaches, okay, the offense would take the foul for encroachment, and we walk off 5 yards, and now the offense has the option to start that on the snap. Outside of 2 minutes, we would go the encroachment being a minor clock stoppage, we would wind after that. But 2 minutes, now we're going to keep an eye on that and not let anybody get an advantage by committing a foul. Let's go to the video.
All right, hold on.
Okay, so we're going to go. Hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Are you good to go?
Hold on. Yeah. Let me make that bigger. Hold on. Okay. So on the first play here, we're going to have encroachment by the left outside linebacker or the player next to him, and we just go ahead, run it. Oh, I'm sorry. This is incorrect. This is all right. The line judge at the bottom of the screen is going to wind the clock here, and we can clearly see that the runner is out of bounds. And the guidelines from our association is that you do whatever the officials on the field. This is kind of weird, but let's run it and see. This is clearly not a wind situation. We made an error in judgment here. All right, he's not driven back and out of bounds. He's actually driven right out of bounds. But he did kill it. Okay. He did kill it. He wound it and then killed it. Okay. So you would just go on that guideline. All right, let's run this one, Randy. I didn't know you were able to get the verbiage up there in my comments.
Yep, it just says you sent it. Okay.
Yep. Okay, good. That's good. I didn't think we had that possibility. Okay. Yeah, so the head linesman here is going to look back at the chains. We're close to the line to game, but we need to the on-field officials need to rely on that line judge or head lines, who's ever at the bottom of the screen facing the chains. Okay, so that's who you'd be looking at. This is just a heads up for what happens on the field. usually when you are the clock operators, okay, but the on-field guy that's really running the game from a signal point of view is the line of scrimmage official who is opposite the chains. He's going to be able to do one of three things. He should be able to do one of three things on every play. One, if it's clearly short of the line to gain, he will put up his hand for the next down, give the dead ball signal, and then roll it down from, say, second to third. He put a 3 up there. Okay, that's the first thing you do. The next thing he might do is if the runner clearly goes beyond the line to gain, he would signal timeout, okay? And then you would know that, but that's the guy to look for, okay? If it's close, you take a look at him, whatever he's doing. First thing, short, he's going to put up the next down. Clearly beyond the line to gain, he's going to signal for a timeout, clock stoppage. And then the third thing he's going to do is he probably will be the first to initiate a pinch into the middle if it's close. So you won't see anything, but those are the guys you want to take a look at. When they get close, you know, they might get on the O to O and tell the referee, take a look at this, it's close. But those are the three signals that the opposite wing from the chains will do. Next down, if it's short, clearly made first down, kill the clock, and start the pinch and pinch in, and then they'll make a decision on the run, whether they're going to measure it, or maybe they just say, oh, it is a foot over the line, we'll kill it then, okay? Or keep it running because it's clearly short of the line of the game. The other thing I forgot to mention the other night, and I hope this is good, is when we get a fumble, okay, and there's a scrum and they're in the middle over there, okay, what they may do is stop the clock to dig, okay? When there's a long pause in there and they got to get officials in that pile, they may stop the clock to dig, okay? And what they'll do is when they establish whose possession it is, well, of course, if it was the defense, we would stop the clock and we would have a change of possession. But if it's the offenses, what the referee will do, he will step away from the pile after signaling that it's still the offense's ball, and he'll just wind the clock up there. Okay, he'll start the clock back up again as if it was clearly the offense's ball all the time. Okay, so that's just something there. Let's go to the next video, Myangelo, which would be, I think it's ECO.
Okay.
After Myangelo's, we'll go to ECO. No, don't do that. Okay, let's take a look at, this is a kickoff play, and this is why it's key to look to the nearest official. Here we're going to have a kickoff down near the goal line. Okay, the referee does a good job here of communicating with the clock operator who's sitting right next to this camera. The ball is not touched originally by the receiver. He does subsequently touch it, and the referee is going to whine. Real good job here. I did this video as an instructional, so you see some arrows on positioning, but you can roll it. So there may be a question of whether he touches it or not, but clearly the referee has not wound until right now. Okay, so he winds, and then of course we kill him, we would go on the snap. All right, that's a good job by the clock operator and the referee or the nearest official here to signify and communicate that the clock does not start because the receiver did not touch the ball at first and then subsequently does touch it. All right, let's look at the next play. Okay. Okay, here we have a punt, and at the end of the play, the officials will kill the clock. This is also a change of possession, so it's going to roll a little bit downfield here. Okay, the officials probably should not wait for trouble here and just blow it when it's dead. Okay, we don't need necessarily a touch by K here. You let the team in red get it, and when they're standing around, just blow it dead and kill it, and we'll go on the snap after this change of possession and kick play, both. Let's look at two more plays, Randy. These videos will all be available on Huddle. If you want them, you can contact me, and I'll get them out to you. All right, here we have, okay. So we're going to get encroachment by that player. I have the arrow on right there. Okay, so let's talk about two scenarios. If the clock is running right now, let's say the clock in scenario A is running right now, and we get encroachment, all right? If he jumps into the neutral zone, the line of scrimmage officials would shut it down. And what stopped the clock? The encroachment, okay? So in that case, we would enforce the foul 5 yards, and we would wind the clock because it was running prior. If in scenario B, what if the clock was stopped? So in this case, we have encroachment with the clock stopped, probably for a change of possession. I think this is the next play after the punt. But we get the defense encroaching into the neutral zone with the clock stopped. We'll enforce the 5 yard foul for encroachment. And we go on the snap, okay? Because if the foul is a foul, penalty is always a minor clock stoppage. Let's take a look at the play. just see what they anticipate here. A player jumps into the neutral zone. The guys are a little late and get to it. It's okay. That's okay. Late flags are okay flags. Don't listen to what you hear on TV. So it may take them a second to process. Now, if you run the clock a second or two in the middle of the first quarter, don't worry about it. We'll fix it. But late in the game, we want to make sure when all eyes, fans, coaches, players, officials, all eyes are on that clock, that this scenario, if there's any clock leakage, we put it back where it's supposed to be. All right. Let's go to Randy, let's go to the 40-second play clock, those guidelines there. I just sent you that one in a separate email. Okay, well, new this year, and I think we had it last year, but we're going to have a visible play clock. So that means there'll be two clock operators. We'll have a game clock and play clock. Okay, and you see this document that's up on the screen here. I'll have this on the website, but I'm just going to touch on some things. So with the visible play clock, we have 8 schools that have it, and any of the postseason games that will be played on college campuses will definitely have it. Rutgers, Keene, and in the Meadowlands. They'll all have visible play clocks. Okay, so just to talk about a new rule this year, anytime that we have a foul by the defense, standalone foul by the defense, the play clock will be reset to 40. Anytime the B's helmet comes off, okay, and they get sent out of the game, we'll stop the clock. We'll stop the game clock, and we will put the play clock at 40. Standalone, okay? When I say standalone, I'll explain in a second. Anytime we have a B injury, defense is injured on the play, okay, we'll have a 40-second play clock. We'll reset the game clock. They are standalone. So if you have a B foul alone, we're going to 40. If you have a B foul and an A foul, that would be administrative, so we would go to 25 then. If you had an A player, helmet come off, and a B player, we would have a 25-second play clock. If you had an A player and a B player injured, 25-second play clock, okay? So these are just the guidelines here for the stopping the play clock. The 25-second play clock is mainly for administrative, so fouls, change of possession, start a new quarter. Anytime we do something administratively, if we have a normal play, a normal running play, and a player runs out of bounds, we would stop the game clock as he runs out of bounds. We would reset. Now, we did this the other night and we talked about it. It's real important. Take a pause for a second. We don't want a million delay of games because we're going to have some problems with teams that don't use a visible play clock. That's a big advantage to a home team that has that because they know they got to pick up the pace a little bit. Okay, we all know the field judges are a little bit lenient on calling too many delay of games when you don't see it, but you have no alternative, no option here. If the play clock is, on the field and visible, if it hits 0 and the ball is not snapped yet, we got to nail it. And by the way, that's the guideline for, the back judge in a 7-man game when we get to the big super games, and it's the field judge in a normal 6-man game, that if you have a visible play clock and it hits 0 before you bang that guy for a delay of game, you want to look down and see if the ball is being snapped. If the ball is off the ground, we don't want that, whether it's visible or your little buzzer goes off. It's just common sense guidelines, okay? But if the ball's still on the ground and you have a visible play clock and it's 0, we have to take them, okay? Everybody's looking at that. That's a time when we have 2 clocks that are critical, okay? So, normal play, incomplete pass, we go retrieve the ball, take a breath for a second, and then we'll start up the play clock. They have to hustle back into the huddle. Even though the game clock is stopped, the play clock, of course, when visible, would be running. Okay, so that's all I have on the play clock. This stuff here, this is a good cheat sheet that Randy put up there. I'll make sure that Jim Conti or whoever gets in charge of the website puts that up. I got this from a friend of mine in Ohio. They use it extensively, and it's a pretty good guideline. Another thing you can go over along with a couple test questions during the week to make sure you're prepared. I thank you guys for all your time. Remember, we all consider you part of the crew. You're the 7th official on the crew and 1 of 10 counting the chain crew. Randy, thanks a lot for your consideration. Mark, thanks a lot. I hope to see you guys down the road. Enjoy.